Hi, everyone, and welcome to this next session on your roadmap to Cloud ERP. Just a few notes before we get started. First, we encourage you to ask questions throughout the presentation. There is a chat panel available within your application, and please go ahead and enter any of your questions there, and we will be sure to respond to you. The recordings are being made of all of these sessions, and those will be made available to you following the event. So please don't worry about having to scribble anything down, because these recordings will be coming to you. And last, and certainly very important, we would like to get post-session survey from you. And as an added benefit to that, you will be entered in a draw to win one of these fabulous prizes. There's Amazon gift cards, an Espresso Virtuo coffee machine, and a 12-month Wine of the Month subscription. So, please complete those surveys. We will be announcing the winners at the end of the day today. My name is John. I think I know many of you. I've been working with Dynamics and doing Dynamics implementations for the last 20 years. I lead our small to mid-sized business applications practice at Quisitive, and I appreciate the opportunity to be able to present this content to you today. Our agenda for today is to really talk about the roadmap to the cloud. And to do that, we're going to talk about, the things we see as a partner, from clients and prospects telling us they've outgrown their accounting software. We'll talk about the benefits of moving to the cloud and the Quisitive solutions that we support. We're going to spend a fair amount of time here on our 3-level assessment program and why that's best practice. Why that's extremely important in considering an ERP implementation and how it ensures your success. And we'll talk about our assessment approach and the details that are there. And this will help frame out the journey to the cloud content. So first, are you outgrowing your accounting software? Well, you could probably answer that question as well as I can, but here are the things that we see all the time. And it's not just one of them, it's often all of them, some of them, but definitely more than one. First, siloed systems. We see in organizations, different business applications have been put in place over the years and they're disconnected, they don't talk, they don't integrate. A business process seems broken because of the number of steps somebody has to go through to post a transaction. Duplicate data, sometimes because non-integrated systems are out there, we've got the same data in 2 different applications. That can lead to challenges of one version of the truth. So if we think about a disconnected CRM application from an ERP application, we may have different sales numbers coming out of it, and that can lead to confusion within the organization. Manual processes. This dominates a lot of work we do when we're doing new ERP implementations, that, we're trying to reduce manual processes. We're trying to reduce the reliance on Excel tracking spreadsheets. We're trying to put in place automation to save people time and to get, the accounting and finance and transaction records to be as clean as possible. Insufficient reporting. I think, we live in a world now where people want data at their fingertips. We want, business intelligence. We want KPIs, dashboards, and monitoring. And we take for granted that, a lot of the time to get that information, there's a lot of manual effort behind it on legacy applications. So, reporting requirements come to the forefront when we're looking at what do we want to get out of a new ERP implementation or a new accounting software. And lastly, security issues. And, we do see these from time to time, especially in our on-premise environments. And, that can also raise concerns for a client with regards to, their current environment and how secure it is. And what is a new environment? What's the cloud going to bring us for this? How can it help us? So all of these reasons, and there are many, many more, I haven't included here things like organization restructure, acquisitions, divestitures, new management teams, different structures, all the things that play into, it's time to look at something new. as well. And I haven't mentioned it here. Sometimes just the vendors themselves, their products have reached a stage of maturity where, the vendors aren't investing as much anymore in those legacy products. And, there's new products that are the wave of the future where they're putting their energy. And sometimes that's a reason, to look at upgrading to the latest and greatest. So all of this comes to us, and clients and organizations say, well, should we consider cloud? And, there's some big benefits moving to the cloud, right? First, you stay current on the latest technology. So unlike our, legacy Dynamics products where, a client traditionally did an upgrade every 2 to 3 years to the latest version, in the cloud world, you're always up to date. You're within 90 days of the latest release. And obviously, this brings new features to your users and ensures that, you're all of the things that go into making a system work effectively have been updated and are taken account of and are in your environment. You're not waiting and planning every 3 years for a big upgrade. These incremental upgrades happen and keep you up to date with the latest and greatest features. Cloud software can reduce costs and free up resources. If we think about the effort that goes into maintaining hardware and the operating systems that run our on-premise ERP solutions from SQL to other programs that are required, this is all provided through cloud-based applications. This is part of the service that you are paying for, including backups and security and just making sure that everything is up to date. So, in our case with the solutions that we support at Quisitive, they have unparalleled security, privacy, and reliability. In many cases, the vendors will say that, their cloud environments are better than any client could create on their own on-premise. That's how confident they are in their world-class security, privacy, and reliability. So these are some major benefits that you get by moving to the cloud. Now, at Quisitive, we support 2 different ERP vendors. Of course, Microsoft and our Microsoft Dynamics products that include Dynamics 365 Business Central. This is the ERP product that is aimed at the small to mid-sized business application segment or small to mid-sized client. And Dynamics 365 Finance, which is more of an enterprise level ERP. Probably 80 to 90% of the people watching this will be in the Dynamics 365 Business Central camp, but there are a number of customers we have that are of a size that Dynamics 365 Finance should be considered. In addition, Quisitive supports Sage Intacct. And Sage Intacct is a really great product that has some different feature sets that sometimes fit better for a client than does Business Central. And so we're very proud to support both of those and to be able to provide recommendations and guidance around which one of these applications would suit your organization best. In terms of Business Central, and you think about a mid-market, ERP, I keep saying ERP, enterprise resource planning or finance or operations system is really what that means. It covers, all of the major functionality you would expect in the core financials area, from robust general ledger and financial dimension tracking to, payables, receivables, bank recs, fixed assets, month-end close. It's got a deep sales subledger from quote all the way through to order and invoicing. It's got a project accounting module. Business Central is really deep in supply chain, operations, manufacturing, distribution, warehouse. It really, really does well there. And of course, because it's Microsoft, it's got a world-class reporting and analytics engine backed by Power BI, which is integrated, but also a number of really key functionality sets that are delivered through the reporting and analytics paradigm. And I'm doing another presentation at our event today that focuses on a new feature related to analyzing data within the application. So, take a look at that if you're interested. In terms of Sage Intacct, this is a solution that covers many of the same areas as Business Central, with core financials around general ledger, AP/AR, cash, purchasing, order management. It has capability across industries. It has fixed assets. It's strong in multi-entity and global consolidations. It's really a strong feature within the Sage Intacct application, and an application that really was designed for CFOs and finance professionals. So both of these are great small to mid-sized business segment applications worthy of your consideration. And if you're interested in this, then the question becomes, well, what does it look like to get onto one of these? And that's really what we're here to talk about today, is how you make this journey to the cloud, because both of these are cloud-based. So when we're planning a move to the cloud, we always talk about our cloud migration assessment program. And this is really an important first step, we believe, in any ERP implementation. And let me just talk a little bit about how we at Quisitive go about doing ERP implementations. We base our implementation methodology on SureStep. SureStep is a proven and predictable milestone-based implementation process that's used to guide the implementations of Microsoft technology and reduce risk for both the customer and us as your partner to ensure that you have a successful implementation. Our Sage Intacct practice has a similar implementation methodology that, frankly, goes through many of the same steps. Inside SureStep, there are and any implementation methodology, there tend to be the same core steps where we do analysis, design, development, configuration, deployment, training, and operation. Now, our assessment program really fits right in front of this analysis and design phase. It's a diagnostic, it's called. And, it covers off many of the features that are recommended here in a best practice ERP implementation. And I think it's really important to point out that this screen, which we could spend an hour just on this altogether, but this implementation methodology is best practice. Best practice means that we're doing the things that are required for you to be successful with your new ERP implementation. And so if you think about it now as a 6-step process, starting with a diagnostic or assessment, leading into more detailed analysis, design, development and configuration, deployment and operation, you get the picture of what it takes to implement an ERP. So if you look at this and you're saying, well, how do I get started? What does this mean for our cloud journey? Then this is where we want to talk about our cloud assessment program, our diagnostic step. And so, in understanding the number of customers, we have a large number of customers on legacy Dynamics products at Quisitive. And we're very busy and have been very busy for the last few years, and probably will remain very busy for the next few years doing assessments and migrations from these legacy Dynamics products to either Business Central or Sage Intacct. And, to do that successfully, we really believe we need to dig deeper than just say, let's migrate from, one product to the next, because, there's a lot of requirements behind the scenes that may have changed. There's a lot of reasons, as we said at the outset of this demonstration, there's a lot of reasons we are where we are in needing a new ERP. And so this approach we're using was designed it wasn't designed to be a sales approach. It was designed to be a professional services engagement to dig deep into what we need to do to be successful and to provide you with a roadmap that's going to answer a lot of the questions you may have. And, those questions could range from, what's it going to take to do it? How much is this going to cost? What's involved from my team? What issues am I going to experience if I think of moving? How do I understand what's involved here? And so we designed a program to answer those questions. And so we're going to take you through this in detail today, but let me just say that the objectives of our assessment program are to go deep, much deeper than you get in a traditional sales demonstration or meeting, really to do a detailed assessment and document our results, right? And talk about what that means in terms of fits and gaps for a new system, to provide a deep understanding for your organization of the cloud license models and budgetary implementation costs and timeframes related to that. And if you think about a pure sure step implementation, our assessment actually helps speed up, in some cases often replace the detail around the analysis and design phase. So in a way, this is work you have to do anyways. But the advantage here is that, you're signing up for an assessment at this stage. You're not signing up for an entire ERP implementation, right? And this is going to give you all of the information you need. This is really going to provide your roadmap to what a successful implementation looks like. So with that in mind, let's talk a little bit more about the details of this program. First and foremost, we have clients that span all kinds of different industries, all shapes and sizes, all kinds of different levels of complexity. We have nonprofits and associations. We have public companies. We have private companies. We have smaller companies that maybe do under $10 million a year in revenue, and we have clients that do well over $1 billion a year in revenue. And so, one size does not fit all when we look at assessments. However, we have to have a program that we can talk to people about and provide some guidance around it. And so we put together an assessment program that has, it's really 3 different levels, and here's how we target them. This is not an exact fit, but it's pretty close to what we look at. So first, we would call a rapid assessment. That's one that we can do in 2 to 3 weeks elapsed time. It's typically an organization that's, really doing the core financials aspect, where it's GL, AR, AP, fixed assets, banking, and, typically they'd have 5 users or less. There would be no customizations in their current environment and very few third parties, if any. Typically, when we speak to an organization like this, we know in our heads if they're a fit for Business Central or Sage Intacct or Dynamics 365 Finance. In this case, Dynamics 365 Finance wouldn't come in. So we would normally say this is a Business Central or Sage Intacct opportunity, and talk to you about that, and then go ahead with an assessment against one of those products. When we get into the next level, the kind of the mid-size, where typically it's more than 5 users. It's somewhere in the range of 10 to 30 users. There's some integrations, there's some third parties, there may be a bit of customization. When we're looking at something like this, we may say, well, this, depending on the industry, this could be either Business Central or Sage Intacct. So oftentimes we will look at both of those applications for their suitability in a collaborative assessment. And then last, if it's a large enterprise level organization, typically more than 30 users, there's complex operations. There's many integrations, customizations, and third parties that need to be considered. That's going to take a little longer. It's going to require, more leadership from the client. And, typically, we're going to look at all 3 ERP packages for their suitability to this organization. At this level, we likely consider whether Dynamics 365 Finance would be a fit. And just given the scope and scale of some of the organizations we deal with, that's where it would come in. But this gives you a bit of guidance around, what are our packages, and, how long does it take to get through an assessment, and what's going to be required of your team. That's an important thing we get asked. We get asked that, about the whole implementation, and we answer that as part of this implementation assessment. But rapid is typically, it's got a lead. It's kind of like a finance lead usually, and some team members from your side that are required during the assessment. In a collaborative assessment, it's typically the finance and business unit leaders. And on an enterprise assessment, it's a larger team. You've got, basically every business unit, you've got finance, you've got technical people involved, and, everybody's taking a really deep look at this, and it's just a larger number of users going through the process. So, those are the three levels of the assessment. What I'd like to talk about now are each of the steps in the journey that we do. And we do the steps, it's the same milestones across all three levels of the program. They just take some of those milestones take a little longer, the bigger and more challenging the implementation will be. So our typical assessment looks like this. We start with a questionnaire or scoping, scoping call and really come up with a project plan. Then we go into feedback sessions with your stakeholders. Then we do a fit gap analysis and solution assessment, and then we come back and present this information to you. So what I'd like to do is talk about each of these steps in a little bit more detail so you can appreciate what's involved in them. First, in step one in our discovery step, this is where we do a baseline questionnaire, and this is really important for us. Now, if you're a long-term client of Quisitive and you've worked with our teams, we likely know this information. If you're new to Quisitive, if you're somebody we haven't worked with before, then we're going to start with this questionnaire. And the questionnaire covers, all of the things that really touch an ERP system, right? From the existing cloud technologies you may have in place, whether those are CRM, whether they're employee expense management, timesheets, anything that's out there that we need to be aware of. What products you're being licensed for today, what functionalities you're using inside your ERP, from financials through to project, manufacturing, operations, all of the pieces that are there. We want to understand the size of your database. That's important for us because it gives us an indication of just how big the level of effort and work is going to be to migrate some of that data. We want to understand third-party products in use, integrations and customizations you may have. We want to understand the number of users you have across these different applications. We want to understand your reporting, analytics, budgeting, and forecasting needs and what you have in place to support those. So, the questionnaire is really designed to get an understanding of your current state, but it also provides the information we need when we go into our stakeholder sessions, the next step, to probe the unmet needs, to probe future state requirements, to understand where your organization is headed and what kind of functional support you're going to need from within your ERP to meet those objectives and desires of future state. So once we get this back, of course, we arrange a scoping call and we review the recommended program with you. We'll say, based on what we've seen here, we think you're rapid, collaborative, or enterprise, and this is what it looks like to get through it. And remind you of the participation that we'll need from your side to get through the assessment phase of the project. And at that point, you can determine, hey, does this fit with what we want to do? And does this fit with our timelines? And if so, we'll go ahead and get a project plan together and get this scheduled. So assuming we do that, the next step in the journey will be the feedback sessions. And this is where we start, right? And I think one of the things that's really important here is that we go into those feedback sessions armed with the detailed questionnaire that you provided in step one. So, those act as a really important guide for the sessions we have. We typically break these sessions down into work streams, things like a finance work stream, like an order to cash work stream, a procure to pay work stream. But we work with you to ensure that these sessions are set up so that you can have the right people in it from your side and that durations and scheduling and everything matches your schedule of availability. The main thing is that these sessions are really focused on getting feedback on how your current state is working in detail, right? And what's required in future state. So if you think about as an example, if you think about a core financial session, right? We're going to have a session specifically on chart of accounts. We're going to talk about, the existing chart of accounts. Let's say you were using Dynamics GP where you have a multi-segment chart of accounts. When you move to one of the cloud platforms, that's going to become a single segment supported by financial dimensions. And so we want to talk with you about the flexibility that brings, about how that structure works, what the implications are, how that can help you with some of the reporting and budgeting challenges you may face today. It'll give us a lot of insight as to whether or not the existing chart of accounts needs to be cleaned up. And so we go through that exercise. That is a discussion we have with every single implementation we do. We always spend a lot of time on it. And sometimes chart of accounts, go through a big change. Sometimes, they're perfect and they don't need any changes. And that's really just one example of what we're trying to get out of these sessions on, when you're thinking about finance. But they really do cover all aspects of the business. And, this may bring into case, like I've got a CRM system and, it's disconnected and, my sales folks get pushed to go put leads and opportunities in it, but they never get involved in the orders, or they don't see invoices that come back. They can't see customers' outstanding balances, and we need an integration there. We need this system to work like it's one application, not these disparate silos. And so all of that stuff comes out in these sessions. We want the leadership from your team to help us understand what future state looks like. We want to get at this point in time, based on what where is the organization headed and what's causing problems today? What needs to be fixed if you consider a new ERP implementation? These are all the things that come out of these really stakeholder workshops. So again, it's a critical phase. Our team has done this for a long time. We know the feedback that we're trying to get out of this. It's critical that we have your engagement and your senior team and subject matter experts involved in these sessions, right? But we're also going to act as the consultant here. We're also going to act as the partner who has done hundreds of successful implementations. The partner that brings best practices to your team and that challenges you a little bit at times as well. So this will all be part of how we work through these stakeholder workshops. The next step is a step that's heavy for our team, which is an alignment step where we do a fit gap analysis. And here what we're doing is we're taking the information we received in the stakeholder sessions and we're compiling by functional area a long list of requirements. And of course, we share the requirements with you to get your feedback and prioritization. But what we're doing with those is looking at those requirements and asking, how do they fit with a given ERP package? So how well does that requirement fit with Business Central or Sage Intacct, right? What does it actually mean in that application? Does it fit well out of the box, or is there a gap? And, if there's a gap, what action would we take to resolve the gap? What a gap means is that you have a requirement that fundamentally the ERP application doesn't support it natively. And there's only 3 ways to close gaps, right? We close them through a business process change. We close them through perhaps an integrated third-party application, or we close them through a customization, right? Sometimes an integration in there as well, I should say. So that's how we close gaps when we have them against a requirement. But it's important that we understand that, because we're going to explain that to you as we go through this process. We're going to make you very aware of where the ERP has a great fit and where there are spots that require more work or a different approach to be able to meet your requirement. Right. And this is the value that a partner brings, because we deal with this on every implementation we do, right? You have to remember that the ERP vendors are building great products, but these products they're building are meant to be used across multiple industries. And sometimes there is a requirement that's unique to you that may not fit within their out-of-the-box functionality. And so we spend a lot of time on this. The other thing we spend some time on here is looking at whether or not a migration tool would speed your implementation, whether it would be an effective ingredient in the implementation. And so when we talk about migration tools, what we mean by that is that there are pre-packaged migration tools to move you from your existing ERP to a new one, right? So you could say, oh, we want to move from QuickBooks to Sage Intacct, or we want to move from Dynamics GP or SL to Business Central. And there may be migration tools available to support that. What we found with the migration tools as a general rule is that they're not that effective in actual ERP deployments. And the reason why is that typically, doesn't mean 100% of the time, but typically there's enough change versus from current to future state that says, I can't just really rip what I have and replace it. I can't go grab the structure I have today and just put it in a new application. We need to change that up, right? It may be that we're changing a legal entity structure. We may be changing the chart of accounts and financial dimensions. We may be pulling in integrations that, we didn't have before. So, typically what we find is that the migration tools are of limited use. And so for that reason, we're not able to use the migration tools as they exist out of the box. But we go ahead with a more traditional ERP implementation approach. And again, that's an important outcome from this, because if you're looking today at how do we migrate effectively, you're probably seeing information that says, oh, there's migration tools available. Well, what you need to know is whether a migration tool will work for your organization. So again, this is an important part of the analysis that we do at Quisitive. In step 4, we talk about our solution assessment, right? And that's really taking all of this information that we've gathered and putting together, a package that we can share with you. This includes, making sure the fit gap analysis is very clear. It includes making sure the scope of what you're asking for is understood, and that we're defining that scope around business processes as well as the functional and non-functional requirements, that we've highlighted all the integration and interface requirements as well. And, anywhere that there are concerns or challenges, we're making sure those are analyzed and that we're making recommendation to resolve those challenges. Also in this step, we're making sure we've prepared a cost assessment for you that covers both the cloud licensing as well as the implementation cost model. And oftentimes at this stage, there are, different opportunities available with the implementations. There's, perhaps a couple of different approaches we could take with a certain item that can influence the cost, but we're going to make sure you're aware of that so that you have a really good understanding of what the ballpark investment's going to be to make this journey to the cloud. And ultimately, that culminates in a presentation to you and your team where we go through our solution assessment. We present our findings, the requirements, the fit gap, the solution assessment. We demonstrate the products that you may be interested in, whether that's our Dynamics products or our Sage Intacct products. We're going to give you an outline of recommended project plan phases and milestones, so you can think about this as an initial project plan. We're going to give you a recommendation, as I said before, on the migration approach to use and whether or not a cloud migration tool will be useful to you or not, and obviously provide you with all the documentation around this solution assessment so that your investment in the assessment is something that you've got a tangible document to take away and something to reflect on. And if you go back to one of the earlier slides we had with SureStep, documentation is important, right? And we do a fair amount of documentation when we go through our steps implementing ERP, and we've always found it's really important. Artifacts from an ERP implementation are critical. Again, they are best practice. So if you're thinking about best practice, this is the way to do this, right? This is a very important step. At this stage, once we've done this, you've got a roadmap. If you think about it, we've answered the key questions. You've got a document you can share and understand, which deals with what product is the best fit for us. You know, what issues will I experience if we transition? How long will this take? What kind of resources and time commitment would be required from our team? You know, how much is it going to cost? All of the questions you have today will be answered through this assessment phase. And again, what's going to happen is we're going to be able to use that, you know, to leapfrog the next step. If you choose to do the ERP implementation with us, you know, we're going to be able to jump very quickly through the analysis and design phase of the ERP implementation because we've done a detailed assessment to start. It's more than a sales diagnostic where we said at the beginning, right? Like this was a very detailed review of what's required. And that's going to help us get to our first step in the implementation process, which would be to create the solution design document or the blueprint for all the configurations, to jump immediately into technical design around, you know, integrations or any customizations, to be able to start the down select process for third-party products if those are required, and, you know, to be able to understand where those fit. And what requirements we need. You know, so we're not just asking if there's a third party and we're going to do vendor demos. We're not just asking certain vendors to come in. We already have a really good understanding of what they need to be able to deliver. So again, this is a critical first step. And I really do encourage you to think about an assessment as the starting point of your cloud ERP journey. I'd be happy to take any questions that you have. Please feel free to reach out to us at Quisitive and let us know if more questions come to mind. We'd love to talk to you more about your specific needs. We're happy to go into more detail about anything you've heard here today. And as well, we're happy to provide demonstrations on our great product capability on Microsoft Dynamics and Sage Intacct. So, you know, please feel free to reach out and let us know. And, you know, again, thanks for taking the time to watch this and participate in our event today. Would encourage you to, you know, share your feedback and get yourselves in the draw for one of those great prizes. And thank you, everyone, for your time. I hope you have a great day today at our event. We'll look forward to speaking soon. Thank you.